Good morning, friends. It is time to plant the first tray of seeds. But first, check out my grow room companionship. Hello, Bailey. Bella. I turned the grow lights on. And look, I'm growing a kitty. Hi, Gracie. And not to worry, right over here. Hi, Jack Frost. Continue with your nap. I'm sorry I disturbed you. All right, tray number one, my first tray of seeds. I am going to be a little bit heavy on the descriptions on this one. I want to make sure that if you've never started seeds before and you want to, you could follow this and do just fine. And then in following seed starting videos, I won't tell you exactly how, I'll just show you what I'm working on. But for today, we're going to go ahead and plant our very first tray of seeds for 2024. Okay, first, let's talk about containers. Everything I do goes in a 10-20 tray. This is filthy. This is what I should have been doing in December and January. I should have been cleaning all my things, but I didn't. So guess what I'm doing now? That will be the next part of this video, cleaning these trays. However, this is a 10-20 tray. They are standard sized across greenhouses. You can get them when you buy plants at the greenhouse. They send you home in them. You can order them online. They come in cheap and nice. You get what you pay for. So when I first started out, I bought cheap ones. They're a little wiggly. They'll hold up for a couple of seasons and then they will inevitably break. I have some thicker ones that will probably last me 5 to 10 years. You use what you have. The very first year I got them all from saved ones that I saved from buying my plants the year before. Use what you have. Over the years, I just keep throwing ones away as they break and replacing them with nicer ones just so that I don't have to purchase them again every year. But I don't want to have a big influx of cash in the beginning because my husband's already complaining about my seed bill. So yeah, so I need one of these. This is my tray. When I say I'm going to plant a tray, I'm planting one of these. What I put them in are one of a couple things. So I have those 6-pack containers somewhere. Regular 6-packs. You buy your flowers in a 6-pack. I keep those if I buy anything. I have had people give them to me. I find them at places. I will keep those and I will plant some things in there. Plants that are going to stay smaller. Most things, because I start my seeds earlier, I plant in these. And these are a 2x2 cell. They're a fairly hard plastic. I got these on Amazon. I paid a little bit more for them. And again, it's something where I bought a set of them. And then in the next year, I bought myself some more. I like these because they fit evenly in here. 4 across, 8 down. And they have more room. There's more room for soil in here. So when I feed them a fertilizer, there's more room for the roots to grow. They're not going to get root bound as fast. Now, if you live in a southern climate, this is probably no big deal. You're going to grow your plants a couple weeks, 6 to 8 weeks before, put them outside, no problems. I'm in Michigan. In a northern climate, sometimes my plants stay in my grow room longer than anticipated. Sometimes I harden them off and they live on my front porch longer than anticipated because it hasn't dried out enough, because we had a late snowstorm. You don't ever know. Spring in Michigan is very finicky. So through trial and error and lots of failure, I have found that if I put them in a container that they can stay in, I won't have to up pot them. They'll have plenty of room for the roots. Pretty much the only thing that gets up potted out of these are tomatoes and peppers. Now, I do have a larger size. This is a 4x4. Want to see the comparison? I bought them from the same company that I bought these from. I think it's called Vivo Sun. I don't remember. I bought them on Amazon. However, you can get, there's all kinds of brands that sell them. I use these for bigger plants like my peppers. So I will start my peppers in here to save space. And then I will end up transplanting my peppers up into these when it gets closer, just because peppers for me take a long time. And I want to start with a big plant to make sure that I get enough warm weather in the summer to get peppers sooner rather than later, if that makes sense. Tomatoes just grow very fast. So I will not use these for tomatoes. I will use, hang on. these. I put my tomatoes in red Solo cups because I can just poke holes in the bottom for drainage. I will fill them about halfway up and plant my tomato seeds. And then as it gets taller, tomatoes let you add more soil and make more roots. So I use these because they're tall for all my tomato plants. Tomato plants, pepper plants, everything else, or a 6-pack for very small things like herbs or flowers. And I'm gonna have to go wash all these. So onto the sink. Welcome to my very messy basement sink. I went through and washed, like you can see, all these with soap and water, rinsed them all out, and now they're drying. Okay, so in here, this is my tub, and this is all my new potting soil I got. This I got from Fox Farm. It's just potting soil. Many people have many opinions about what to plant your seeds in. I'm not gonna say one's right or wrong. I use potting soil. It has a good, see all these white things? It's vermiculite. It's gonna make a lot of good airflow. It's gonna help hold on to water in these trays. This is going to be what I'm gonna use. You can use whatever you want. Okay. You can use whatever you want. Whatever you're using is better than the nothing that you're using. Ideally, potting mix, you will have people say that it should be sterile. You should sterilize it to get rid of anything that might be in the soil. You don't know where this bag has gone. I'm an urban farmer. I farm in the city. I do not have a lot of control over the biosecurity, the biological security of my land. I have neighbors and gutters and all kinds of things. I have to get my potting soil for inside right now from an outside source. Ideally, what I'd like to do is get my compost built up enough that I can take compost from outside in the fall and bag it and bring it in the house for the following spring. But so far, I am not that organized. That would be ideal. However, in less than ideal circumstances, I'm gonna buy this bagged potting mix. I'm gonna get the best stuff that I can afford in the season that I'm in, which some years was not very good stuff. Some years was glorified topsoil. But this year, I have got potting soil from Fox Farms. It is an organic. It's something that I trust and I think is fairly well trusted as a brand. And then I'm going to fertilize it with fish emulsion, which is the same thing I did last year, which is weeks down the road. Don't worry about it. So all I'm doing here is taking all my little 2-inch containers, which is what I'm using today, and I am filling them full. And I'm filling them full. I'm not letting them be a little bit, I'm not leaving room for seeds because I still have to water these down. I'm just gonna sink it down some more. I'll plant my seeds and add a little bit more. And then all I'm gonna do is line them up in my 10-20 tray all over top of my bin to catch all my garbage. This is a really good idea. Do this. You will thank me later. Okay, now that they're all in here, now I'm gonna water them all in. You can water your potting mix in my big tub first if you want and put the damp stuff in here. I do it this way so that I'm only watering the tray that I'm using. And I'm gonna get this nice and saturated, and then I will take any extra water that's out in about maybe a half an hour. This would be easier with a watering can. Okay, we're gonna let that soak in now. So while we let that water absorb into those containers, the next step is to make labels. Do not forget to put a label. You will forget what it is. One year, I just drew little diagrams with what everything was, and then I moved them all around or they fell over, and I ended up with mystery flowers. So here's my tray one. These are the things that are going in it. I'm gonna make myself some tags. And I'm just using these plain plastic tags and a Sharpie marker. I have bought gardening markers that are supposed to not wash off in the rain and the weather. They do. I just keep coming back to this. These I buy in boxes of like 300 or 500. They are plastic and I reuse them. So those are ones I haven't used yet. These are all ones that I pulled out of the garden last year. None of the ones I need for today are in there. There's probably a whole nother bucket of these outside somewhere. I'd be willing to bet that probably has what I need, but I've got all these ones. So I'm going to use these ones. When it comes down to it, I can cross these off and put other things on them. I could put little labels on them. I'm just going to reuse these until I have zero place left to write on them to make sure I get the most out of them. So here is my first tray. I did add a couple herbs in here because I had some extra room, because originally I planned to do this in 6 packs and I decided to go with my 2 inchers. So I've got some herbs in here. I've got valerian, 2 valerian and 2 comfrey. These are medicinal herbs that I've seen a lot in other videos of other YouTubers, and I'm interested in learning more about them. So I'm trying those for the first time this year. I've got more herbs. I've got a whole row and a half of parsley. 3 of them are single flat leaf parsley and 3 of them are dark leaf parsley. I've got 2 containers back there to try and grow artichokes. I don't know if I'll be successful at that. They need a long growing season, but they might be pretty in the meantime. I've got 4 containers to multi-sow celery, these Elsa Craigs, and red and yellow onions. These are all onions. I've got 8 containers for onions. And then I've got marjoram, 2 rosemary, 2 cumin, and 2 tarragon. And I will go ahead and right here I will insert a little clip of all those seed packs so you can read about them if you want to pause the video and look yourself. Okay, time to plant the seeds. Now, I'm going to plant my seeds by just using the end of my marker to make a hole. I don't know if you can see that really good. I'm just going to make a little hole. And what you want to do, the general rule of thumb, is to take your seed and plant it twice as deep as it is. Does that make sense? Like twice the size of it. So I'm going to plant a couple little valerian seeds, and I'm actually going to plant in all 4 corners because I don't know how well this works. So I'm going to put 1 there. I'm going to put 1 there. I'm going to put, oops, 2 there. All right. Guess I'm going to plant a couple more than I thought. And 2 there. Like I said, I've never grown valerian, so I'm going to give myself a little bit of extra. If this was a seed that I knew was going to germinate, I'd probably only do 1 seed or maybe 2 per pot. If those all come up, I will need to thin them out. So I'm going to continue going ahead and planting all of these out. Okay, couple things as I've been seeding that I thought maybe would be good to mention. 1, when you put your seed inside here, you want to make sure it comes into contact with the damp soil. So you need to push it down, and when you cover it up, make sure that it's got good contact with that damp soil, because if it stays in like a dry air pocket, it's not going to germinate. So make sure you do that. Also, number 2, for things like parsley, where I want to get like a bush of an herb, I just sprinkle a bunch of seeds in there, cover them up. I don't mind at all if I have multiple plants in the same one. If it gets too big, I can separate it and make 2 plants out of it later on. But for herbs, I just sprinkle the seeds in there, cover them up lightly, push down, make sure they make contact, and then I'll get a bunch of plants rather than just 1 plant. So I might be back if I remember more things as I do this. Okay, next tip. Do you see these seeds? There's probably 100 seeds there. Those are all celery seeds. Onion seeds are the same as this. They're teeny, teeny, tiny. What I'm doing is I'm going to plant these celery seeds, maybe 20, 30 in a cup. And then when they get bigger, I'm going to separate them out and up pot them into their own container. I'm going to do that for celery and onions. So I will have 100 celery plants in these 4 dishes. Oh my goodness, Stephanie. And I will probably have 200 onion in these 8. Then, because these seeds are so small, I'm not going to really cover these up. I'm just going to kind of disturb the soil. Some of them might get a little buried, some of them might still be on top, but I'm going to push down to make sure they all have good contact with the soil. And that's all I'm going to do. Same thing with the onions. I don't want to bury these too deep because they're so small that they might not have the strength once they germinate to get up through the soil to the surface. Ta-da! Tray number 1 is planted. To perfectly end this video, I would put the tray under the grow lights and show you where it's going to be. However, Gracie, my plants are going to go there. Is it nice and warm there? Do you like that spot? I'm going to let you stay there for a little bit longer, but then you have to move because Mama's got to grow onions. This will work for now. Ideally, when Gracie moves, I'm going to put this tray up here. Although I could put it down here if I turned one more light on right there. But this will be just fine for today. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to write the actual variety that I did here on my big calendar that I just kind of keep in my command station. So I know which variety I planted, because sometimes, like tarragon, this is Russian tarragon. There is a French tarragon too. There's different rosemaries and parsleys. I'm just going to put the kind that I did in case I ever need to know, which might happen, right? Okay, we've started seeds for the year. Very excited. Like I said, this one's a little more in-depth than future ones will be. The future ones will just talk about the varieties and little tips here and there. But this one I wanted to make sure I put all the steps that I'm taking in there so you know how to get a tray started for yourself. Any questions? Any other tips? Put them in the comments and I will talk to you soon.